Now it's time to try and parse all of this data into a table. For that, I'm going to use Panda data frames. Panda data frames are very often used when dealing with data in Python. And many data scientists use this. There's a few ways you can read data with pandas. You can read data directly from a CSV file. You can read data from JSON file. You can also read data from HTML. You can read data from lists in Python. This is going to be the method I'm going to use here. Rather than trying to read the HTML directly with pandas, I don't think it's the best solution in this case. I'm going to actually be parsing the HTML using BeautifulSoup, extract what I need from the HTML, and I'll put that into a list of lists, and then I will read that with pandas. All right, so let's see how we can extract the data from our table here. I need to change the dates, of course, because right now there is nothing available on this day. So if I look for tomorrow, there is plenty, well, there's a few slots available. And then if I look at after tomorrow, there's even more. My goal first is to parse this data, make sure it's in the table, and I can use it later on to do some queries. So let's have a look at how the data is structured here. So I'm going to be using the inspector. So I'm clicking on this link here. It allows me to find out what are the elements where this is located. So we can see here there's a div with a booking page. It's called booking page. And then inside it has more divs, and it has also some extra sections here that will have the information I want. So I can see that you have here a div containing one of the slots, and there's multiple divs here. So probably I want to iterate through this list of divs. Yeah, I should be able to get the information I need. Each div here contains another div with the class name of activity box. And then inside this, I can see the information that I need. Okay, see 60 minutes is duration. Then if I want to see the time, it's here, so 9 o'clock, yeah. Okay, so if I iterate for all activity boxes, then I should be able to retrieve all the different time slots available. Okay, so let's do that. Before we even start using pandas, let's just import BeautifulSoup. So from BS4, import BeautifulSoup. So this is a library that for web scraping is almost, it's an essential. Okay. So I've imported BeautifulSoup. Now I can start using BeautifulSoup. So soup equals BeautifulSoup. And then I have to get the page source from the web browser because BeautifulSoup accepts HTML. So I'm just going to get it from the browser, which I already have open. So it's going to get the source, yeah. And we'll instantiate an object of class BeautifulSoup. Okay, so soup is instantiated. Now it's time to search for elements. So I'm going to do soup.findAll. And I'm going to look for all the divs. And I'm going to do here a filter by a class name. This is not too different from what we've been doing before with xpath, but in this case, this is not really xpath. This is more like a notation that you have, a way for searching in BeautifulSoup. So I'm going to search for a div, and this div will have a class name of activity box. So I made a mistake here, misspelled it. Okay, so you can see that it returns a bunch of HTML inside the list. So for each div, it returns an item. And you can see the raw HTML here. Of course, we don't really want all of this. We need to refine it further, but this is a good start. Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste this line, and I'm going to save this into a variable called rows. Okay. So I'm going to iterate using a for loop for row in rows. I'm going to do another experiment here. I'm going to print each row, but this time I'm going to call text. So I'm going to print each row, but only the text. I'm going to ignore all the HTML text. And it should be a bit easier to see what we are getting. Yeah, you can see here already all the elements that we want in text format. Okay, so the time, the duration, and the location. It's kind of repeated here, but I need to further refine this. So if I want to retrieve the time, there should be another div here. Okay, there's a class. There's a CSS class called time of day, and this will give me the time when the slot is available. Okay, so I'm going to do a further refinement. So I'm going to do row.find, and I'm going to search for a div of class time of day. Okay, and I'm going to save this into a variable, and we're going to print it just to make sure that we are not making a mistake. Okay, so I'm going to disable the previous print because it's showing me everything, and I should only get times 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, this is looking good. So now what I need to get is number of slots. So this will tell me how many chords are available. I can actually extract this. To be honest, unless I'm trying to book more than one chord, this shouldn't matter. But if you're trying to book more than one chord and you want to find a slot that's available, then you need to check the number of slots. So I'm going to include this because the criteria might be useful for us later. Okay, we have 4 slots here. So there's a class here, space details text. I think that's one. That's the class name I need to use. So I'm going to add that here. So row.find, div again, space details text. Okay, so we have here the time and the number of slots. Okay, another very important piece of information is not just the number of slots, it's whether it's available or not. But seems like we are in luck, because if there is no availability, it's going to say, instead of telling me what the number of slots are, it's going to tell me it's full or not full. And I can easily use this as a way of creating 2 bits of information. One, first of all, whether there's any availability, okay? And 2 is how many slots are available, how many chords. So the same field is actually going to allow me to populate 2 columns. Or I could just create 1 column with a number. So I could convert full to 0, and I could then I could have the number of slots as a number. I haven't decided yet. Let's not worry about that for now. We can always adjust this later. Okay, so we have time of day, availability, and now we need the date. In this case, the date is a bit more tricky because you don't get the date from here, okay? But the date is available here in this calendar. So I know what the date is based on this field here because it gives me the exact date. I can parse this into a date time object in Python. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's find out how to get the information here. So the date is in an input field. So you have here span, and we have a zebra, date picker, icon wrapper, and then the actual input is inside here. Okay, it's actually quite tricky for this input because, as you can see, there isn't much I can use here to, there's no ID, so I can't just do get element by ID or anything similar. I can't even get the class name. This is kind of seems to be very generic, so I can't use this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use xpath here to retrieve this span, and then I'm going to get the child from the parent. We've already done that before, so it's not going to be new. So I'm going to do find element by xpath, and I'm going to do a span. So I'm going to search for span element, and then a CSS class of zebra. And I probably want to copy that rather than trying to type it letter by letter. Okay, so now I'm going to search for the input inside it. So 1// means I'm going to get the element directly below. If I wanted to get an element that wasn't directly below, but it was a child, I could use also this. Okay, so let's do that. I didn't close brackets, right? So let's see if it works. Yeah, it worked. So let's now try and get, I'm going to save this into a variable, data picker, and I'm going to get the value that's inside the data picker. You can see the date that's selected. And that's what we need. Okay, so what I'm going to do when I extract this information and put that into a Pandas data frame, I'm going to include this date. Okay, then I'm going to do multiple queries for each. I'm going to do like, you can only book 5 days in advance for this particular website. So I'm going to search for dates within the next 5 days and get a list of dates and slots and put that into the table. Okay, so now it's the fun part where we're actually gathering data and extracting useful information.